Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Is it necessary for women to wear niqab in the Shafi'i school? Is it necessary for women to wear niqab in the Shafi'i school of law? Now, first and foremost, Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. This is one of those matters upon which there has been differences of opinion among the scholars, not only from the Shafi'i school, but since the time of the Sahaba, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhim ajma'in. There is no clear evidence, that espouses the obligation of wearing niqab or the non-obligation of wearing niqab from the Quran. It's all interpretable. The same thing applies to the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. There is evidence to espouse both views. Number one, that it is obligatory, and the other one, that it is Sunnah. But before we speak about whether it is obligatory or Sunnah, the key element in learning Islamic law, I believe, is to understand the matters upon which there is no difference and then proceed to understand the differences thereafter. Which is why when one studies any particular school of thought, the traditional methodology in terms of studying fiqh is to study and master one school of thought while having the other schools in one's periphery. So you do have an appreciation of the other schools, but you need to be grounded in one school. Otherwise, especially for a non-scholar, and even when it comes to scholars, it requires mastery in scholarship. One should stick to one school of thought for as long as possible and be grounded in that, and then have an understanding of the other schools. So when it comes to the matter of niqab, the reason why I'm mentioning this is there's some confusion in the ummah that niqab is completely foreign to Islam and it's a cultural practice. Now when it comes to traditional Islam, the schools of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, there is no madhab that regards it as foreign to Islam or cultural practice. The ruling basically goes between fard and sunnah. So is the woman's face, is the face of a woman awra or is it not? There are differing views, but everyone agrees that it is either fard or sunnah. Nobody says, no, it's not fard, it's not sunnah, it's nothing, it's makruh, it's haram. So that's something that we need to understand. The only time in which it is prohibited for a woman to cover her face would be when she is in the state of ihram, and even there, scholars differ as to how to treat that particular situation. Now we zoom into the Shafi'i school. Upon reading the Shafi'i school on this particular matter, it's easy to become confused because different books would carry different opinions on this matter. So there are differing views on this matter in the Shafi'i school, right? And scholars have reconciled these views in various ways. So you may find that some have actually expressed, no, it is obligatory in the Shafi'i school, and they would have evidence to espouse their view. I'm going to present here the fatwa of my late teacher, Mufti Taha Karan, rahimahullah ta'ala, in which he covers this topic, and he says that covering the face and the hands is not obligatory, but sunnah in the Shafi'i school of thought, but it requires some elaboration. Bismillah. So he notes, Muhammad Taha Karan, rahimahullah ta'ala, was asked regarding a woman covering her face and hands in the Shafi'i school, and thus responded that it is not obligatory for her. Moreover, Ibn Hajar, rahimahullah, mentioned this in his Tuhfa, that's Tuhfatul Muhtaj, the sharh of the Minhaj of Imam An-Nawawi, rahimahullah ta'ala. So, differing from both Imam Al-Ramli and Khatib Shirbini in their book. So that's from Nihayatul Muhtaj and Mughni al-Muhtaj respectively. So these works are all commentaries on the Minhaj al-Talibin of Imam An-Nawawi. Now the Minhaj al-Talibin of Imam An-Nawawi is essentially the Mufta Bihi book in the madhab, meaning that if fatwa is going to be passed, it is going to be passed first and foremost from the work of Imam Nawawi, rahimahullah ta'ala, which is essentially a synopsis of all of the previous scholars' works, and then a synthesis thereof between himself Imam Nawawi and Imam al-Rafi'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, who are, for all intents and purposes, the spokesman of the Shafi'i school of thought in the traditional sense. Then other scholars would take the work of Imam Nawawi, rahimahullah ta'ala, and further elaborate on that so that we can have an appreciation for how to really study the work of Imam Nawawi and how to pass fatwa accordingly. So these scholars that we mentioned now, they all write commentaries on the book of Imam Nawawi, Minhaj al-Talibin. Sometimes, however, if matters are not cleared up in the Minhaj al-Talibin, then the scholars who write commentaries on that text, they further elaborate and end up with their own conclusions. And then essentially what happens in the Shafi'i school is that there are different approaches to fatwa, different approaches as to how to pass the ruling, but generally speaking, the work and the words of Imam Ibn Hajar al-Haytami and Ashams al-Ramli, they are the weightiest among the commentators of the Minhaj of Imam Nawawi. طيب. So that's just some background information. Ibn Hajar's position is preferred, is the rajih in this case, considering both the madhab as well as the evidence. So Mufti Taha rahimahullah gave tarjih, preference, to the opinion of Ibn Hajar, which states that it is not obligatory, it is sunnah. And the reason for him giving tarjih to that view is considering the madhab itself and the way the madhab works, as well as the dalil in relation to the matter of niqab. So subsequently, I decided to elaborate on the issue, thereby providing additional detail. Perhaps confusion may arise when evaluating this issue, along with the issue of looking at a strange woman's face. So there's a differentiation between a woman having the duty to cover her face when leaving the home and looking upon the face of a ajnabi, meaning a marriageable woman. Those two are separate issues. Therefore, the ruling of looking shall be clarified before the issue of covering the face. Looking at a strange woman's face and hands can be one of three scenarios. So this is the rajih view in relation to looking at a marriageable woman's face in the Shafi'i school of thought. If it's done with desire, this is unrestrictedly unlawful. So this is haram. If it's done while fearing fitna, which is probable temptation, this is also agreed upon to be unlawful. And then the third scenario is when there is no desire. So transactions, business transactions, etc., teaching, etc., and there is no fitna. In this school, this is a point of differing opinions. The difference of opinion found in the third situation where there's no desire and no fitna is as follows. The majority of the scholars of the madhab, the ashabul wujuh of the madhab, especially the earlier scholars in the madhab, they opine that it is not unlawful. However, Shaykh Abu Hamid and others added that it is disliked. Abu Sa'id al-Istakhri and Abu Ali al-Tabari opine that it is unlawful. And Abu Muhammad al-Juwayni and Imam al-Haramain preferred this view. Abu Ishaq al-Shirazi and Imam al-Ruyani affirmed it authoritatively, and both Imam Rafi'i and Imam Nawawi authenticated it. Consequently, it is the relied upon view in the madhab. Differentiating between the two issues, so now we've covered looking at the face of an ajnabi. In reviewing the matters of covering the face and looking at the face, one may understand that looking at the face and hands is impermissible, and thus obligatory for a woman to cover those parts. But on the contrary, the issue of covering or exposing is an entirely separate topic within the Shafi'i school. There is no need to infer the school stance by relying on the issue of looking. Indeed, the issue of covering the face is based on what is related from authorities and not based on mere inference. So it would be improper to take the ruling, okay, it's impermissible to look, therefore the woman has to cover the face in the Shafi'i school. No, the issues are separate. So on the one hand, it's impermissible to look, but the onus not to look is upon the male. So he should take responsibility not to look at a marriageable woman with desire under terms of fitna, etc. On the other hand, the woman isn't obliged to cover her face because the other one is not, the opposite sex is not permitted to look at her. So Then, of course, he elaborates, and I'm not going to read everything, but he then elaborates on the difference between Ibn Hajar and Romli. And he agrees with, as we said before, Ibn Hajar, who considers it not a fundamental obligation. Still, Ibn Hajar considers it enforceable concerning the public's common interest. So if a society or community follows this view, then the mufti or whoever is setting the rules for that society, they can still enforce the wearing of the niqab based on public interest. So that is possible. Romli and Imam Romli and Imam Khatib Shirbini, however, they consider covering the face a fundamental obligation in the Sharia, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. So there's some elaboration there. The point being that the preference is really up to the mufti, and in this particular fatwa, Ibn Hajar al-Haytami, he considers it not to be compulsory, and that's the opinion that I'm sharing here with you as well. If you'd like to read the details, and I've gone into some amount of detail earlier on, but if you'd like to read the details of this particular fatwa, you may do so on the Seeker's Guidance Answers service. And the question that you may find it under is it necessary for women to wear niqab in the Shafi'i school? This exact answer may be found there. Barakallahu fikum. I pray that was of assistance bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah.